My YouTube didn't get monetized until 2020. All of that income was just brand collaborations. I could flex my muscles, but like, I don't want to overwhelm people, you know what I mean? If I can make half of my corporate income per month from this content creation thing, then I'll leave my corporate job.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with people who are crushing it in content creation, especially in the realm of creating video that generates business. Now, I've got a guest with me today who's crushing it on YouTube. And when I say crushing it, this is somebody who doesn't have to wear a bikini on every single shoot. She doesn't have to flex her muscles, and she doesn't have to show Rolexes or Lambos or Ferraris, even though I'm sure if she wanted to, she could. It's Modern Millie, or Millie Adrian. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and welcome to the Content Capitalists.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I could flex my muscles, but like, I don't want to overwhelm people. You know what I mean?
I think that if you did, then people would just like, we can't relate. You're just too godlike. So we're next, right?
Right. Gotta stay down.
Stay
Relatable.
relatable.
Stay humble, you know?
Exactly. So I was just checking out your YouTube channel. It looks like you have 315,000 subscribers there. You've got 130,000 on Instagram followers. Now, a lot of people, they look at that and they're going to be like, how the heck does that happen? And if somebody hasn't even started yet, they might be like, or they might have a channel that they created once and they have, 15 subscribers. It's going to be they themselves and their other profiles and their mom maybe, right? But tell me a little bit about, before we go into your backstory, what do you do exactly? And who do you help? Like, what's your business model behind this?
Yeah, so I specifically work with content creators or aspiring content creators, and I teach them how to build their online presence and the foundations of a content creator business, scale on any social media platform that they're aspiring to build a presence on. So whether that's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and ultimately profit off of their passions of content creation and learn how to make money doing brand collabs, affiliate marketing, selling their own products. So really helping content creators be all encompassing in every area of the content creation space.
Got it. And what are you finding when people come to you and they want to work with you, they want to get your help? What's the biggest pain point they're facing?
I think the most common pain point that I hear is people not knowing how to niche down, or that it's just like that starting point. There's always, everybody's starting point is different, but there's always that one thing, barrier, that is stopping people from taking that step, whether it's, well, I just don't know which platform to be on, or I don't have a camera, so I can't start, or I don't know my niche yet, so I can't start. There's always like that first initial barrier is the most common thing that I hear from content creators.
Got it. So I guess it's the thing that's stopping them, that like everybody has different stages, like you said, and it's just that whatever stage they're stuck at, they'll tell you what it is. So what is it typically? What is that barrier? Is it, I don't think I look good on camera, or I don't know how to use a computer? Like give me a couple ones that you hear a lot.
Yeah, camera confidence is definitely one of those. Somebody who's like, well, I don't perform well on camera. I get super nervous. So that's one. I think people just, most of the time, they don't know their unique perspective. They don't really understand their uniqueness that they bring to the table, or they take it for granted. And I think the thing that you would assume is super common is like, oh, everybody, that's nothing. I think for me it was like, oh, Instagram. I was like, I just knew how to take photos and post photos and organize my content. Everybody knows how to do that. Like, that's so easy peasy. To me, that was easy. It came naturally. But to other people, they were like, whoa, how do you do that? So trying to figure out what your uniqueness is, and that, I don't know what I'm trying to say. That one thing that you think is so nonchalant about yourself and that little fun quirk that you have that you think is so normal, but everybody else thinks is awesome. Figuring out what that is probably the hardest part.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like my wife tells me all the time, like to me, some things seem really simple, finding, solutions, solving problems. And to her, she's like, I need a manual. Otherwise, like, how do you do it? How do you come up with these ideas on the fly? And yeah, that's exactly what you're describing. I don't value it so much, and I barely recognize it as a gift because it's just how I normally think and operate my whole life. Really good one. That's probably a huge value bomb right there. Is not trying to make yourself something else, but discovering what part of you is unique so that you can amplify it, right?
And it could be as simple as, oh, I'm a college student. Having that perspective as a college student is a huge value add to the creator space. So it could be something so simple. It doesn't have to be a skill or expertise level, but it just could be something as part of your identity that is unique to you and unique to others.
Yeah. One thing that it's so funny because I live in Japan. I'm Japanese. I grew up in Japan. I speak English pretty well, I think. But one trend that's really taking off, and it started right before this COVID thing, and then it's picking up again because tourism started, is so many YouTubers are coming to Japan and talking about their life in Japan. And that's taking off. And I'm just like, I could have done that. I live in Japan. That's next door. And just like, damn it, that's what I should have been doing. But then you see, it's the uniqueness that I didn't recognize that other people are capitalizing on. So it's amazing what you can do. If you live in Zimbabwe, then talk about Zimbabwe. If you live in I don't know, New York, talk about New York, right? Let's go back a little bit. Some people might be feeling like it's unattainable what you've done for them, and I think a lot of people who come to you, they do. Let's go back to before you ever published anything online. What were you doing?
Mm. Well, if we want to like rewind way far back before I ever published anything online, that was like, middle school. I started a YouTube channel in eighth or ninth grade with my little brother. So that was probably the first time I started creating content, but it was solely for fun. We just loved making videos. There was no goal with that. And then fast forward to right before I started creating content for this business, I was working full time in a corporate job. I was there for almost 5 years, and it was a job I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the company, I enjoyed the job. So it wasn't that I was
If
miserable,
you don't
you
mind me
know?
asking, what kind of company was that? What was your job?
Yeah, I worked as a project manager for an online marketplace. So I I worked as the project manager. I was talking with like the dev team and I would help manage the projects for our dev team, and then I also worked a little bit with the marketing team and managed some projects there, figured out ways to organize the projects, and then did a little bit of QA quality control with testing new features as they were rolled out onto the website. So that's what I did, and I really loved it. I love the company. There's nothing wrong there. I had a great boss who was a huge mentor for me, and I think really the only thing that made me leave the corporate space was just that gut feeling of like I just felt like there was something more for me. There was something else for me. I just always knew I was meant to be some sort of content creator. And I had always been on YouTube, with my little brother for so many years. So I just couldn't get rid of that gut feeling that I needed to be creating content. So I went all in and I was doing that for about 9 months consistently. And then that's when I put in my notice to leave my job.
And how much of that, the skill that you learned in project management, digital marketing, like quality assurance, how much of that translated to what you're doing now?
Um, it's hard to say. I want to say a lot of it because I'm so organized with work now, but also part of me is like I was already an organized person. That's why I was asked to be in that position because they needed someone to organize the projects and to manage all the projects. So I feel like it's like 50-50, a lot of it came naturally to me, but then a lot of that business structure and even how to treat employees and how to create a workspace that people love. I think I learned a lot about that side of business more so than the job that I was doing, how that affected my business right now.
You know what? I think that that's part of the appeal that you have online. because most people who say, I want to be a creator, I want to be a YouTuber, they are hella not organized. I'll tell you. Like one day they wake up and it's like, I feel creative, right? And
Yeah.
then your content and the way you operate, the way you speak is so organized so that when they find you, they're just like it calms their soul in such a way they're just like, this is what I need. A little bit of, organized thought process, a little bit of peace, a little bit of something looking structured. I think that's what that's what is the secret to your success is you are an organized person in a disorganized space and people need you.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, it takes me like 3 to 5 hours to script one YouTube video because I want to make sure everything that I'm teaching is being communicated in a simple to understand and digest way, but also it's told in the right order where it's easy to consume and organized. So, yeah.
My content is pretty much if I have three stages. How am I going to open it? What am I going to talk about in the middle? And how am I going to wrap it up? And that's how I'm doing this podcast. Like right before we hit record, I said we're going to talk about your backstory. Then we're going to talk about what's working now. Then we're going to talk about like advice for the viewers. That's the extent of my organizational process
That's
around content
hey, you're
creation.
still far ahead and you're still more organized than others. So I still give that a thumbs up.
Uh, okay, so you got this project management job, and you went straight from that into full-time creator. Is that right?
Yeah, so I told myself, okay, I'm going to go all in with content creation, try to be like an influencer because at the time like influencer bloggers and travel bloggers were the thing. So I was like I'm going to try to make money with brand collaborations and
This
if I
is
can
like
make
5, 6 years ago, or how long ago is
this was
this?
in 2019, January 2019.
Okay, this is not so
Mhm.
long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. And I was like, I'm going to go all in. If I can make half of my corporate income per month, like from this content creation thing, then I'll leave my corporate job. And I ended up in about 9 months, I hit the halfway mark because I told myself, well, if I had extra 40 to 50 hours a week to go and work on content
And you could
creation,
double that,
I
right?
could double that. So I hit that in September and I think I did like a 1 month notice for work. And by October 4th, 2019, I left my corporate job and I took on to help supplement that income. Not only was I doing like content creation, but I also took on 2 social media manager clients. So I just went all in from working from home and helping other businesses manage their social media.
So you became a one-man band agency and content creator, pretty much. Is that
Yeah, right
is
away.
that how you describe yourself? Yeah. And what did your parents think about that?
Oh, they loved it.
Oh,
They
good.
loved it. I don't want to say I'm like the wild child, but I've always had wild dreams. And I think they learned from a young age to just like, hey, she's just going to go after anything she wants to do 100%. And if it works out, it works out. And most of the time, I learn from whatever it is, whether it works out or not. I'm always learning. So they're fully supportive.
Now, if you're okay with it, if you're not comfortable with this, you can. I'll drop the subject. But could you share what that number was? That was a halfway point to a monthly income that you were willing to leave your corporate job for.
Yeah, it was how much was it? It was about $1,000 a month.
So and that was coming in from a combination of influencer like sponsorships and a little bit of YouTube ad revenue.
I was not making any YouTube AdSense then. So my YouTube didn't get monetized until 2020. And so all of that income was just brand collaborations.
Okay. And what kind of brands were like, did brands seek you out or did you have to seek them out? How did that happen?
Little bit of both. So I had taken like a pitching course. It was a course that taught influencers how to pitch to brands. And so I had my pitch template that I would send about 10 emails every week to different brands and see which ones I would land. And then sometimes they would find me through third party networking platforms like Aspire IQ, hashtag paid, basically websites where brands and influencers can connect and you could apply to campaigns or different projects that brands are working on. And most of the brands that I worked with, I would say they were kind of lifestyle health in that industry,
You seem like the
beauty, health.
person that would represent beauty, lifestyle, and health. That's
That,
why you'd get picked for that. So
yeah.
tell me, What was the very first brand deal you got? Tell me about that.
Okay, so there is the first paid brand deal I had was a huge learning curve because it was a brand that I was like, I would not promote this company, not normally, but they're paying me. It's the first time anybody's offered to pay me, so I'm going to do it. And I ended up doing the partnership, and it was like not the worst partnership ever, but immediately after I felt that sinking gut feeling of like, ugh, I shouldn't have done that because I thought the product was stupid and I wouldn't have actually used the product in real life. And two, they had all the creative control. They told me exactly how to pose, what to do, what to say. It
So
was the
you're more just
most
like a hired model than an influencer, then,
yeah.
right?
It was just a hired model. Here's you're going to be the billboard little yeah. And it just felt so unauthentic and I that was like my a huge learning curve just from the get-go of like, wow, okay, never doing that again. But that was the first paid partnership I had ever done and I was glad it was the first one to get it out of the way.
Do you remember how much they paid you for that?
I think it was about 2500 and it was for an Instagram photo post and an Instagram video post. And then I also sent them like 3 to 5 images that they could use for their social.
Yeah, that's got to hurt because you worked so hard and people grew to love the person that you were up until then. And if you feel inauthentic to yourself, then you can bet that your audience is going to feel like, what is going on here? Like, is this the Millie that we've been following, right? That and you're going to lose a bit of trust with your audience when that happens, right? If it's inauthentic.
Yeah. Yeah, they could feel that. They could sense it for sure.
Did you get a bit of like a few people in the DMs like what's going on or a few comments like what?
No, but the post tanked. It was horrible. It did not perform well. And I wanted to take it off, but in the contract it was like, oh, it had to stay on your profile for like 2 or 3 years or something crazy like
2 or
that.
3 years. Did you have
Yeah.
to pin it?
No, luckily no.
Okay.
Thank God.
Okay, okay. So obviously, learned some lessons there, but how did it feel when you got your first paycheck? Was it just like, holy crap, this actually works. I could actually make money. Or was it like, I'm accepting this money, but I feel bad about it? Like, what were your feelings?
My feelings initially were I've made it. Like I did it. I've made it. This is possible. The sky's the limit now. Like once I got that first paycheck, it was like, holy cow, this can be something. This can actually be something.
Amazing. And I think that, even though you say that you made some mistakes, which, you probably did, if you could go back and learning what you did learn from that experience, would you have rather not taken that first one and waited longer, or do you think that that's what was the impetus that got you some momentum to find more and more people? Would you undo it if you could, or would you keep it as it is?
You know, I would keep it as is because it's part of my journey and now I get to teach my students to not do things like that because I made that mistake. So now in my courses and when I'm teaching students about brand partnerships, I'm able to help them identify their gut reaction and be like, "Okay, yeah, you have to say no to that. Yes, it's money, but it's closing the door for another one to open."
Perfect. And if someone else did make those mistakes, then you'd always have that story to whip out and say, "Hey, by the way, I probably made a worse mistake." Tell them about that. It's so true. It's your low points that people relate to, because then just like, well, at least I didn't go that low, right? And then all of a sudden, everything seems possible. Okay, cool. So from then on, it started growing. Things started ramping up. Um, Tell me about the next time in this trajectory where you kind of feel like, oh, I've made it to the next level. Do you remember something that happened?
Yes, that was when my YouTube channel got monetized. So I started posting videos to my YouTube in 2018 casually. So it wasn't a serious thing. It was like, oh, I miss YouTube. I want to go back to it. 2019, I think I posted 6 videos total. And then 2020, COVID, woo, I randomly checked my email one day in, I think it was June or July, and I saw an email that was like, your channel's monetized. And I hadn't posted in 4 months maybe. And I was like, how am I monetized? And I'd go to my YouTube studio, and I guess one of the videos that I had created the year prior blew up. And I know exactly why it blew up, and my method of like creating my reason for creating that video was validated. And so that was like a huge like I could be a YouTuber. I could do this. Like I knew what I was doing, and I doubted myself because it didn't immediately perform well. You know, with Instagram and TikTok, we have that immediate gratification. So I was like, I was giving up on YouTube too soon. So then I started going all in on YouTube, and 3 years later, we're at over 300,000 subscribers. So that was the next big moment for me.
Mhm. So tell me about that. You said that you made that video strategically. What was tell me a bit about that. What were you thinking when you made it? What was the video, and why did that happen?
Yes. So at the time, I was really into Instagram. So I was trying to figure out how to grow on Instagram and how to edit pictures for Instagram and figure out how to make the most aesthetic profile. And so I would do all my research on YouTube because I'm a YouTube gal, and I would look up how to edit Instagram photos, how to do this. And every time I would look up how to have a Instagram aesthetic or how to have your Instagram feed match, there was not one video that taught what I was looking for. There was a bunch of videos of people teaching, hey, this is how I edit my photos. This is how I make my feed aesthetic. But I needed somebody to teach me, this is how you could do it. This is like a one size fits all strategy for editing, and you could apply it your own way. And so that was like, okay, nobody's doing this. I need to figure out how to do this, and I need to figure out how I could teach others to do it as well. So then I do my own research, I figure it out, make a video on it, and that was the video that ended up blowing up.
Amazing. Amazing. I interviewed someone just a couple weeks ago. You probably heard of someone named Marley Jacks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that name sounds really familiar.
She's also on YouTube. She helps people do, probably similar to what you're doing, but more from an agency perspective. But one of the videos that blew up for her is just like, here's how to use Canva to make thumbnails. And this is when Canva was barely recognized. But that video, it's the gift that keeps giving from like 6, 7 years ago. And for some reason, that video gets favored much more than the new ones, that everybody else is making. And uh, the algorithm is still a mystery to most of us, but sometimes you just hit it, and then YouTube just keeps showing it to more and more people. And I guess the key is make useful stuff, right? Uh, the distinction I got when you described how you came up with that is you're solving people's problems. You're not saying, look at me. You're not saying, haha, here's a funny prank. And I think those are fine too, but you're solving a real problem. And you went from the perspective of not, you went from the perspective of what is the person actually going to need to solve the problem. And I think too many people think like, how can I get people to watch a video? Not how can I solve a problem?
Mm, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we've heard a couple milestones, and when did you get into actually helping other people to achieve some level of success on YouTube? Uh, People are paying you money now. You've got courses. You've got all kinds of ways that people can access you. When did that light bulb go on?
Probably 2020 as well. So I started putting out more YouTube videos and started teaching more. And the more I taught, the more I was asked questions. And the more questions I was asked, the more video ideas I would come up with. And then I realized, well, I can't turn all these questions into a YouTube video. So maybe I just need to offer coaching. People are asking the same questions. So let me start coaching people. So I did a group coaching and one-on-one coaching at the end of 2020. I had one client who was a one-on-one student. Within the first 6 weeks of us working together, she went from like 1,000 followers on Instagram to 30,000 followers on Instagram. So I was like, okay, this works. What I'm teaching is working. So from my coaching, one-on-one coaching and group coaching, I turned what I taught into courses. So I think that was the most helpful part, was working with people to see what would stick and what wasn't sticking, and then turning that into like a curriculum that I would sell year round. And 2021 was when I launched my first version of my first course ever. And now I have, I don't even know, 3 courses and 4 in the making.
That's really cool. So it's just solving problems, and you just keep solving people's problems, helping them achieve some level of success. How much did the first client pay you when, your coaching client, right? Because I remember the very first time I asked for money for coaching, and I think I think I charged $3,000, and I made a really simple. I think it was a 6-week curriculum, and when the first money came in, I was just like, "Yes, it works!" I was like, I invented fire or something, right? But then, several hundred sales down the line, it's just like a little blip, and it's not that emotionally exciting anymore. But tell me about your first paying coaching client.
So the first one was like the group coaching, and it was kind of like my 6-week testing period. So for 6 weeks, I think it was $300 for 6 weeks. And then the first one-on-one coaching student, I think it was $1,000 a month with a 3-month minimum contract signing.
Okay, very cool. And when that PayPal or Stripe payment came in, it was just like, it works. Right?
Yeah, it was
I don't know
it
about
was
you, but for me, the
scary.
first is always scary to take their money. You mean?
Yeah, it was scary because I'm like, these people trust me to give them results, and now I feel like this weight and obligation to follow through on that. And like, what if I can't do it? What if I suck? What if like I don't know what I'm talking about? What if I think I know but I don't? Like, it was so scary because all these people in this like group coaching, I think I had maybe 9 people sign up, and I'm like, 9 people gave me money to give them a transformation. That's huge. I was so scared.
A little bit of imposter syndrome going on there.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite quotes is this: like, if you have imposter syndrome, think about it this way, is that real imposters don't get imposter syndrome because there are imposters. Only genuine people would ever feel imposter syndrome. Like, psychologically, it's not possible for imposters to have imposter syndrome.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
That means you genuinely want to help people, and you're wondering, can I provide the amount of value or live up to the expectations of others? And then you work harder. And that's what that stress is about, because you haven't experienced it before.
That makes sense. That makes me feel a little better.
Let's talk about what's working right now. You've got YouTube, you've got Instagram, crushing it on both platforms. Tell us about strategies for planning, shooting, deployment, engagement, like a bit of that process for how you keep this flywheel moving and trending up.
So what's working is I plan my content like 2 months in advance so that I can batch my content on days where I can work with my body instead of against my body. So I already know what I'm posting in August at this point. And because I'm able to do that, I can pair together like 2 or 3 videos where I'm like, okay, I could film these 3 videos on one day where I'm feeling super inspired, and I can knock it out, send it over to my video editors. And that helps. One, it helps me stay ahead, helps my team be ahead, and not all of us have to be running around stressed out, like making sure videos are up on time. But also, it helps me as a content creator not hit burnout, because I mean, we're always on that content creator hamster wheel and always having to push content out all the time. So if I'm able to batch on days where I'm feeling inspired and I know my body will be up to the task, then it helps me kind of take care of myself mentally and physically, emotionally as well.
Amazing. That's one thing I'm finding in common with everybody who's doing well on social media is they plan and they batch. I think that uh, the people who say you got to make a video every day, go live every day, I'm just not wired like that. Maybe some people are, but I am not wired that way. It's exhausting. But planning to do concentrated sprint of energy, that's okay. I can handle that. And I also have it more under control, you know?
Absolutely. I think when people are saying you should be posting every day or you should be doing this every day, or even if you watch your favorite creator and they're the ones that's posting every day, when you compare your content schedule to them, that's where it can get dangerous because then you feel like you need to be doing that too. And for us who are not wired that way, who really I could not do something every single day. Who For us who are not wired that way and we try to behave that way, it could lead you straight to burnout and it's just not a pretty place to be. I would know, take it from me. Don't do it.
Understandable for sure. Tell me about so you plan and you batch like that. How do you pick the topics? Because you said something really important earlier about how you came from the perspective of, hey, nobody else is teaching this thing that I need. So there must be other people that need it, right? Is that the same process you go through now, or has it been adjusted or refined a bit more?
There's so many different processes I go through. That's one of the so one way is filling in the gaps in the market, and that's what I would say my very first strategy was I would look for an answer on YouTube, and if I couldn't find it, that's a gap in the market that should probably be filled. So there's that strategy, filling in gaps in the market. You also can do what's trending right now within your niche, within your industry, so you could be on trend. That's tough to plan out ahead of time, because if I'm planning 2 months in advance, that's harder for me to do, but it is a strategy that you can do to maintain relevance and to, like, ride those waves of views. The third strategy that you could do is just simple SEO keyword research. So if I know I wanna teach a video on Instagram tips, I'm just going to do some SEO keyword research and see what's trending with Instagram tips right now. What are other tips that are happening right now? And then the last one that I do is taking ideas immediately from my audience. So, myself and my team, every time we post a video, we're in the comments section for the first 48 hours, seeing what sort of questions people are asking. And we're then turning those questions and putting them back into the list of videos to create for the future. So the videos, sometimes they'll come to me, in a dream or before going to bed. And then sometimes it's pulled from my audience. And that's kind of all the different ways I get my video topic ideas.
Got it. That's super cool. Uh, I think those four are so simple, obvious, and yet people try to overcomplicate it. They're just like this algorithm and this research tool and this, like it's the way you describe it. It's so refreshing. I think anybody who's been on YouTube or even thought about creating a channel has probably come across these four. Now somebody who's got over 300,000 subscribers saying, "Yeah, these are the four things I do." It's like, okay, back to the basics. Just do the stuff that works. Rinse and repeat, right?
It's all I've done for the past 3 years.
I love it. I love it. What do you do? What are the biggest mistakes that you're seeing people doing when, like, let's say somebody comes on to your coaching program and they say, I'm having such and such a problem. You have a quick peek at their channel. What's the most common thing that people are doing wrong that you right away know that, okay, this is how you fix it?
I would say the one biggest mistake that I see people make is not being able to communicate clearly the value that your platform is bringing to someone. So if I go to your Instagram profile or if I go to your YouTube channel, and just from glancing at your videos or your posts, I cannot tell who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, I'm not inclined to subscribe. And that it helps to have topically consistent content. So yes, it does help to niche down sometimes, but even if you're not in a specific topic or industry, having a consistent value that you add, or like kind of bringing it back to what we first were talking about, your unique perspective, if you have that consistency there, it makes it so much easier for somebody to be convinced to subscribe or to follow.
Makes so much sense. And if there's another mistake you're seeing people make, if there's the number two, it can be as simple as, hey, they're getting the titles wrong, or the thumbnails are they look 1990s. Actually, there was no thumbnails back then, but you get the idea. Like things that are so easy to fix that people just overlook and don't put attention to?
Ooh, I don't know if this is one that's like an easy to fix, but it's like a underrated, not talked about common mistake is not starting with an email list. And I feel like no matter what sort of creator you are, whether you're a content creator, YouTuber, or business owner or contractor, I don't, what have you, if you want to grow a social presence online, starting with your email list and starting with some sort of freebie or lead magnet is going to be so helpful as you scale because that's a platform or that's a presence that can grow with you. So if you start that from the very beginning and you start getting people to sign up for your email list from the very beginning, you have a gold mine. And it's funny because I would hear this tip when I first started my creator journey and I would almost roll my eyes because I was like, okay, I don't need that. I'm going to be an influencer. Influencers don't need email lists or I want to be this. I don't need an email list. I wish I listened to people when they said start an email list. So that's something that I try to get my students to do from the very beginning. I even had one student just the other week tell me, I regret not starting my email list when you told me to. And I was like, I know. It's just super helpful. And if you want to make sales down the line or you want to start a coaching business down the line, your email list subscribers are it's a great place to do that.
So how do you do that? I know how to do that. You know how to do that. But for anybody who right now is, maybe trending up on social media, what's the easiest way to start building an email list? And how do you monetize that list? Let's talk about that too.
Yeah. So the easiest way to start your email list, first, once you've figured out your niche or your industry and you know the value you have to give, you want to ask yourself what immediate question or questions does my target audience have that I can answer for them? Those questions that they have for you, turn it into an ebook. You go to Canva, literally their templates, ebook. Use their template, answer some of the questions in there, save it as a PDF, and you're going to offer that as a freebie or a lead magnet. And then to actually set up the techie part of it, because I know people are intimidated by the tech, I would recommend using Stan Store because that's just like all in one tool that you don't have to think about tech. You literally just like drag and drop your PDF, boom, your email list is set up. Like that's how simple it is. If you want to get a specific idea for like, okay, what should my freebie be? Go to Pinterest. In the search bar, type in your industry. So if your industry is fitness, type in fitness and see what's suggested under that on Pinterest. Pinterest is where so many people are giving freebies. So you'll get a lot of ideas of what other creators or other businesses are making. So maybe it's like 3-month fitness day planner. And that's what your freebie is. So you're going to do your own version of that and that's what people are going to download. So that's how you figure out the freebie type. The tech setup is super simple if you use Stan. And then when you monetize, if you have done it in the correct way, you've niched down, you're in the fitness industry, and then down the line you want to offer fitness coaching, monetizing it could be as simple as sending an email blast to all your email list subscribers and say, "Hey, sign up for a free consultation call to see if we would be great with coaching. I'm opening up 10 slots. Let's see if we're a good fit." You send that email. Immediately people book that free 10-minute consultation call. You book your 10 people, you're able to make money. That's how my first one-on-one student, that's what we did. We started with the freebie. She didn't want to, but I told her, let's make your macro cheat sheet. And so she made a macro cheat sheet. We started to grow on Instagram. 6 months later, she's like, oh, I want to launch coaching.
So she wasn't nurturing this list with regular weekly updates or anything. It was just, she just collected the emails and then blasted everything at once.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's simple AF. Most
Yeah.
people,
And
I hear them talk about how they got to have this 20 email sequence and, so many of these automations and SMS and this triggers that. It's like a Rube Goldberg machine a lot of times how people describe their marketing systems. You say, just collect the emails when you want to sell something, just tell everybody you're selling something. And, and
Yeah, and I mean, the funnels work too, having all those funnels, they work for a reason.
but I think that that's so intimidating for people, and people don't get started because of that. They should start with something as simple as what you're describing, and then once they're comfortable with that, then automatically they'll see the value in adding a few automations that will look more like a funnel eventually. But they might not start with a 30 step, automated funnel with artificial intelligence and 14 different services that all get stitched together with Zapier, right? It's just that's what scares people, I think.
Yeah, and if I can convince someone to start their email list because it is so simple and they just drag and drop their PDF to a Stan store and it like automatically sends it to their email list. If I could convince someone to start their email list because of how simple it is, and then they do it and they're like, wow, that was easy, they'll automatically be intrigued with what else can I do with this email list? And maybe they'll figure out the rest by themselves, or they'll come to future videos of mine where it's like, okay, this is how you set up a welcome sequence and all the other fancy stuff, but it doesn't always have to be super complicated.
It doesn't. Like, I've got an email list that I've never marketed or never sold anything to my list. But someone a long time ago said, you need to start building your list. And I think we've got like, I don't know, 50,000 people or so because of the different things I've done. I should experiment sending something out to that list. Like, it's just, I feel silly for not doing that every time. Like, yeah, just send something. Yeah. Okay. Let's move into, specifically, I know that you started as an influencer, getting paid for promoting brands. A little bit of ad revenue came later. How does that differ from someone who has an established business? Let's say they're a consultant, lawyer, doctor, maybe they have a brick and mortar store, and they want to use social media to improve their business, drive sales, or to attract leads. Do you work with clients who fall in that category too?
I don't work with those clients. I used to when I first started teaching social media because I didn't know which area to focus on. I just wanted to teach it all. So I was working with dental offices, real estate agents, I was working with all different types of social media creators, and I guess the strategy for each
So
one of
you niched
those.
down, didn't you? Like, you
Yeah.
just chose what the person you could help the most. I think that advice will go across the board is when you know the fears, the desires, the experience, the failures, the the insecurities of that one person, go all in. And it's amazing how fast things will grow. You'd be surprised how many people have that same set of everything I just described. So let's pivot here then. If and I'm not intending on becoming an influencer, but if, for example, my son or my daughter was just like, I want to become an influencer. If we're to break this down into chunks, like step one, do this, step two, do this. Of course, step one, go to Millie's YouTube channel, subscribe, and consume her stuff. But uh, outside of that, if someone's listening on podcasts, could you break this down into like step by step chunks? How to get to becoming somebody who gets paid for promoting stuff on social media?
Yeah, okay, I'll break it down in steps. Step one would be to figure out what kind of influencer or content creator you want to be, because that will help you pick a platform to be on.
What are the broad categories here of what types?
Yeah, you could be like an educator or a coach. You could also be, a lot of people like to do more like lifestyle content, lifestyle vlog content. If you want to do fashion, fitness, what do you want to be teaching fashion and fitness? Do you want to be getting brand collabs from fashion and fitness brands? So like just really identifying in 3, 5 years from now, what does your platform look like? How do you envision making money? What does your community look like? What does your target, who's following you? How do they know you? Like if you were to be known for anything, what are you known for? So just like answering all those questions is a huge way to start. And then from there you could pick a platform. And that comes from, one, what kind of content do you like to create? Do you like short form content? Do you like long form content? If you like long form, obviously YouTube's going to be your best friend. If you like short form, you got some options. So if you want lifestyle content, you're not going to be on Instagram. Instagram's the one platform that's like you have to niche down. You need to pick one topic and stay in that topic, and then your account will be successful. So if you're like multi passionate, you want to talk about fashion, fitness, home improvements, that won't be successful on Instagram. So all those things you have to consider before you even start, you know? So, step one is figure out the type of creator you want to be and where you want to be in 5 years. Step two, pick the platform. You can be on multiple platforms, but start with one and get really dang good at it. And then once you've mastered it, you can start a second platform and then get really dang good at that. So, pick one platform. Step three would be start your email list. Have a freebie before you create content and then link that freebie everywhere as you create content. Step four would be jumping into like that content creator hamster wheel, you know, start picking your posting frequency. Are you posting once a week on YouTube, or is it Monday through Friday on TikTok? What does that look like? What do those videos look like? Start planning and batching your content so that you could get the ball rolling there. And as you start to post content, listen to your audience. Once your audience is like, hey, can you do this? How do you do that? Where did you get that shirt? How can I organize my calendar this way? You know, once they start asking questions, that's the gold mine, the yellow brick road, you know, follow that because that'll lead you further down a path of success in an engaged community. And slowly from there, you'll start to see the avenues of income open up. So that's when you'll start to see, oh, I could do brand collaborations, or maybe people are asking for a digital product. Maybe people ask for links a lot. So you need to set up affiliate marketing. But from content creation will open the doors to monetization. And yeah, then pick one way to make money, get really dang good at it, and then open to multiple streams of income after that.
Got it. So it's really just about niching down, focusing on one thing at a time before expanding and trying to be omnipresent. That's what I'm hearing from you. And take this linear path. I love it. I love it. Now, you're the very first person I've had on my podcast, and I think we're on episode 40 something by now, that has come from the perspective of being an influencer. So I really appreciate this. And I think that a few people have asked me about this. And I'm like, how do I know? Like, I'm not, like, all I know is how to get people to watch your content and then actually go into doing business with you, right? Like a lot of services businesses hire our services for doing that. You come from a totally different side, so I appreciate your perspective. And there's also some overlap. One thing I want to add that I've tell my clients over and over, and I don't know if this is true for you, is I say quantity is more important than quality. And they're just like, huh? You know, they cock their head like, you know, we want to make high quality video. I'm like, yes, you do. But when you're just starting out, you're not going to get good at making video, like doing high quality video, until you do a large volume of work. Like you're not going to get good at speaking unless you do a lot of speaking. You don't get good at running unless you've run a lot of miles. You don't get good at piano unless you've, you know, done 10,000 hours of piano lessons, or somewhere in between. And you're not going to get good at content creation until you create a whole lot of content. So I keep telling people quantity over quality. And when I explain like that, just like, oh, I get it. But are you finding that true also for creators, that they should not be looking for perfection, but just momentum? Or is this a different space that we're talking about?
I do agree. I think when somebody says quality over quantity, there's an immediate intimidation and immediate, well, I can't do that. So that puts up a barrier to any sort of person that wants to post online. Well, like, oh, I don't have a good enough camera. I only have my phone. So when you say quality over quantity, immediately that could block somebody from even starting. That's why I like quantity over quality for somebody who's getting started, because that's not intimidating. I could do that. I could just bust out videos left and right even if they suck. I could do that. And that was how I started too, was just like with that momentum. And First videos I filmed for YouTube were filmed on my phone and edited on my phone and posted with my phone. So quantity over quality is so important when you're getting started, I believe.
Yeah, and then once you feel like you've got that momentum, it's then you can start dialing in on, the little tweaks that are going to up the quality every time. But you won't know what they are for you until you've gone through a body of work. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. From quantity comes quality.
Yes. That's my favorite mantra right there. It works every time.
I'm going to turn that into a Pinterest quote.
Cool. Love it. Now, we got to wrap things up in just a minute because I know that we're almost at the top of the hour. How would people find you or get to? Well, let's put it this way. How would people download something of value from you so that they could get on your email list?
Yeah, so you could just go to my website. It's modernmillie.com. And I believe it's modernmillie.com/resources is a list of all of my freebies. So I have free webinars, I have free downloadables, just a bunch of free offers that are all on that one page. So it's modernmillie.com/resources is all of my free offers.
Perfect. So if you're listening on the podcast, guys, go look at the show notes. You want to click that and make sure also to rate this because you've listened all the way to the end where we've practically been talking for an hour. That tells me that there's something about what Millie has shared that was important to you. Maybe it's because I haven't covered this topic before, or maybe because she's got such a soothing voice. Give it 5 stars because you watched to the end. It's definitely got to be a 5-star experience. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Also, tell a friend about it. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead, look in the description. There's the links. There's also going to be a link to all of Millie's Instagram, YouTube, and other online resources she has. Make sure you check it out. Before we sign off here, is there any last words of advice you want to give to an aspiring content creator / influencer?
I would tell them to don't let how other people perceive your journey stop you from taking action. The fear of how others will perceive your journey, don't let that stop you from pursuing what you want to do.
Amazing. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. Now I'm going to put that in my Instagram.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Okay. Let's wrap this up. And guys, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for hanging out. And until next time.